Come on, Livingston. We gotta go on and on and on. Together we can make it. We gotta go on and on and on. Come on, Livingston.
Knocks it through. Mullen bursting into the box. Josh Mullen.
Together we can make it.
Mullen's ball across, it's turned in! It's Pittman who's got it! Livingston leads!
Road is long.
Now can they get the ball back in? O'Brien.
Lead! And Livingston have the lead!
Man, can score.
If we march together.
The full-time whistle blows and David Hayes celebrates! And the Livingston fans join in exultation.
Come on, Livingston.
Livingston have the lead against Rangers, and they are certainly rising to a few occasions on their return to the top flight in Scotland.
Come on, Livingston. We gotta go.
We're delighted to have Strana Apparel as sponsors of Talk Livi. UK based with a Swedish soul, we are Strana. Strana is an independent fashion brand from Scotland who create high quality and stylish attire for on and off the terraces. Inspired by terrace culture, lifestyle and music, all their clothing is designed using quality materials and workmanship to combine the very best style and fit. All of this means you get a premium quality fashion at affordable prices while enjoying a simple and secure service.
As a bonus for Talk Livy listeners, you can get 10% off your order using the code TalkLivy at the checkout. We'll also have some exclusive giveaways during the season, so keep your eyes peeled on our socials for those too. And thanks to Sterner for sponsoring Talk Livy. Hello everyone and welcome to Talk Livy, another episode here, and we are here previewing the women's season, and I am delighted to be joined by new Livingston women's manager Mike Ross. Mike, first of all, thanks very much for joining us. How are you doing, man?
I'm good, thanks. Great to be here. Obviously, once I saw that I had the position, I was interested to know about the supporters groups, the fans groups, and learn more about the fan base. I know obviously Livingston is a terrifically supported club, and that was one of the draws to be involved in the club, is just the local community and people wanting to get involved and promote it as well. So yeah, absolutely delighted to be here, and great to talk to you today.
And we're very appreciative of it as well. And obviously, season kicks off on Sunday. What are just your initial thoughts of that before the big day coming up?
Well, yeah, it's been a bit of a whirlwind the last few weeks. Obviously, with the timing of my appointment, if it'd been maybe just after the season had finished, then I might have had a bit more time to obviously prepare and speak with players and in meetings, etc. So as soon as I was appointed, it was one of my first objectives was to get the players in for one-to-ones and team meetings, etc. And it's exciting times because we've done a lot in the last few weeks. I've still got a lot to do, but yeah, an amazing occasion this weekend for the club. People forget that the women's side is still very young. Last few years it's been more established, but no, excited to see how it goes. I know Sunday will be a really difficult game though. Kilmarnock, I believe, are the oldest women's Scottish football club in Scotland. So yeah, it's going to be tough. They're a team that have been in the leagues and been in the top league, and they've got good players as well. They've got young players, they've got older players, and they're very established teams. So I know they've lost a few, but I know they've added a few in, and yeah. It's good that it's home. It's nice that it's home. I hope that people come out and watch us. And it's gonna be a tough day, but we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, and we'll get onto all your ongoings at the club so far in that in plenty of time. But I'm just kind of interested to know what your background as a coach is, Mike. What sort of got you into it, and where did you start taking your first steps into coaching?
Yeah, coaching. I'd link it all the way back to probably my dad. My dad was a massive influence on me as a sports person. I played a bit of tennis, football, rugby when I was at school, and always preferred football. But I just liked the way my dad helped me and kind of explained to me about how sometimes sport can be a simple game. It's just you need to work on repetition, all that kind of stuff. So I got into coaching really when I really enjoyed PE at school, so that kind of gave me a taste of it. And as I say, played various sports. But about 15, 16 years old, I got into working with a multi-sports camp. And through that, during the summer holidays and Easter holidays, I did various coaching: football, tennis, kind of basic rugby stuff. After that, I just continued working. It was always a good summer job until I finished school. And then as soon as I finished school, I thought, you know what, I wanted to go out to America. I'd heard a lot about people going out to America and coaching. So I went out for a summer with Major League Soccer camps to the Chicago area, coached out in Michigan, Missouri, that way. So some really interesting places, to be honest. Some places out in the middle of nowhere, but great introduction to coaching, you know, and they were really good about, you know, helping you become a better coach. And you'd often have your bosses come down and watch and give you feedback. And there was a lot of good established coaches there too. I came back and then did a sports development and coaching degree at Northumbria University in Newcastle. And through that, I did a placement with the Northumberland Football Partnership, and they were a small organisation, but an absolutely fantastic coach, a guy called Barney Jones, who was my university football coach at Northumbria as well. Just really, really good. Newcastle actually has got some really good coaches. It's a bit of a hotbed for coaches. I've got quite a few friends down there who've done coaching courses and have been involved with Newcastle United and other clubs as well that have done very well for themselves. But yeah, and then I'd obviously been out to America, and I loved the experience. So I thought, you know what, I'd like to go back out again. And it just happened that a lot of my bosses who were involved in Major League Soccer, they'd moved to New Jersey, New York with the Red Bulls. Obviously the team which is sponsored by the kind of energy drink. So it was a great time to be out there. They're building a brand new stadium. It was the time when Beckham just went out there, so it was kind of football was just. People were just going mad for it. Time when Thierry Henry was out there too. So I obviously didn't coach him, but it gave us a chance to go down and watch their training. And you know, we did various things in New Jersey, New York. I think I was there for 5 years. We did stuff like with the youth camps. We did summer camps. We went into clubs, local clubs, and delivered loads of sessions. Did clinics for coaches, and even through Red Bulls, we were very fortunate that they let us be involved with the match day first team experience. So sometimes, for example, you'd be doing things like stretcher crew. So you'd be right next to the dugouts and seeing how the coaches were. And again, seeing some fantastic players at the time, you know, up close. And then I came back from America. I loved it over there, but I just thought, you know what, I wanted to get closer to my family back in Edinburgh because my granddad wasn't well at the time. So I came back, I got involved with Spartans in the Scottish Women's Premier League, and I was there for 5 years working as an assistant coach initially, and then because the criteria changed, I became the head coach, and then we had Debbie as the manager. So yeah, great times there. Really enjoyed it. Got involved with various Scottish FA initiatives and player liaison stuff as well, going on trips to Norway and Sweden. Did some scouting stuff with that as well. And then after that, I saw an opportunity, or during that time, I saw an opportunity to become the Edinburgh University coach. And I thought, you know what, this sounds an exciting project. And then I basically applied for the role, and I was there for 10 years, or just under 10 years. And then a fantastic time. I did really well at university, grew the club. And then after that, I got an offer to go into Boroughmuir in Edinburgh. So that was a role which we kind of created called the Performance Pathway Manager, which oversaw the National Academy performance teams, but also the younger players growing up through the teams into the first team. I was really enjoying my time there, but as soon as I saw the Livingston job become available, it was something I wanted to kind of take on further. And yeah, I'm very grateful to be appointed, and yeah, absolutely loving it so far. So that was my coaching career in a bit of a whirlwind, quick story, but yeah.
Yeah, quite a packed CV there. I'm interested to know, has it always been the women's side of the game that you have been coaching, or has it been kind of mixed throughout your career there? And if so, what were the kind of things that drawn you towards, you know, increasing the women's game? Was it being out in America and seeing like the funding that was into that? Was that something that helped the passion kind of grow there?
Yeah, I get asked this question a lot. Have you been involved with the men's game? And I have been involved with the men's game, not as much in Scotland. It was more when I was out in America. I worked with various high school teams and a men's club there. So it was, I never had a kind of, I must coach girls or women's football. I just happened that when I was out in America, I worked with various players all over. You know, we worked in some very deprived areas with New York Red Bulls. We went in and did clinics. We also worked in some areas there was a lot of money. And so I worked a complete mixture of people. We did various stuff with disabilities as well at the blind school. So I was very fortunate just to kind of really work with a lot of different people. And it just happened when I came back to Scotland and I saw Spartans had an opportunity and it wasn't too far from where I lived. I thought, I'll get involved with that. And they were really good at supporting me as a coach. There was two people, Carson and Walter, who were involved, heavily involved there, and they put me in touch with the Scottish FA, and Anna Signal, the national coach at the time. She often did various meetings and just went along to these meetings, and they were very open about growing the game in Scotland and helping people out. And yeah, I was very fortunate because again, they put me on various coaching courses and got involved with that. So yeah, it was I've never said no to go back to the men's game, but I've been really impressed with the attitudes and the development of the women's game.
Yeah, and of course, it obviously is a ever-growing kind of game here. I think you can see that by the kind of coverage that's happening, and also just kind of the way that players are kind of moving on. There's a lot of players going abroad and stuff like that, and I think it's just showcasing the opportunities now, which is always great. But yeah, just kind of going on to now your joining of Livingston. Is it essentially just that you've seen the job advert just come up on social media essentially and thought, I'll put myself forward for it?
Yeah, so basically, as I say, I was very happy with Boroughmuir. Like, it wasn't like one of these cases where I was looking to get out of the club. It was more, I'd always said to Boroughmuir, I want to get back into SWPL football. And there's not many opportunities, obviously, like where I live. I'd spoken to Hamilton as well about possibly going back in there, but it was just the distance was too far. So I thought Livingston was a really good fit, the way the club was growing and developing, and obviously they won the league last year. So yeah, it just happened to come around, and I thought, apply. And I know it was a very popular position, but had a really good interview when I spoke with the club, and I just had a feeling. I thought, this is what I want to do. I didn't need much convincing. So yeah, very excited.
What was that like application process kind of like? Was it just a case of put your name forward and then just a couple of meetings to discuss your kind of plans of that?
Yeah, so there was the sorry, my 5-month-old baby is having a bit of a meltdown here.
That's not good.
The process, I actually reached out to them on social media very quickly to say, I'm very interested. Sometimes I like to kind of sit on these things, but I just had an urge that I really, really wanted to get the position because I felt like I could make a difference. So I did reach out, and then I sent in a CV and had some discussions with Nigel and Leslie at the club. And yeah, we went back and forth over a few things. And a big thing for me was just the kind of the support network behind the scenes. I know there's various clubs in women's football doing a lot of good things, but I know like you can get into a club which you end up doing a lot like all yourself. And I think it's important that, as you go up the levels, there is more support there. That's my experience having been involved with Spartans, is they've got so many different people doing different jobs, and, it's not always easy to get the staff in, but once you get a lot of good members of staff, it just makes your job a little bit easier. So that was really important to me. And I noticed straight away, there were some fantastic people at the club, from the social media side to dealing with kit and sponsorship, etc. And just even everybody I've met at the stadium so far have just been very welcoming. And I did a presentation when I had the interview. It was something which again wasn't part of the criteria, but I wanted to get across a few ideas because there's a few things that's really important to me, like the values of the club. And I know obviously where Livingston is based, there's a lot in the community to try and bring it together. There's a lot of kind of deprivation and stuff. So I wanted to focus on key areas. Obviously the first team's important for me, but the youth and obviously the community part was really important too. And just really just making a difference to help people. I know obviously how important the football club is to people in the area.
Yeah, absolutely. As a Livingston fan, that's the kind of things you're looking for. You're looking for somebody to represent the best interest, and you're always kind of looking on for the future as well. Especially having been a Livingston fan at the men's level, with the future being uncertain a couple of times and all that, it's very, very reassuring to hear that the last couple of years, both at the men's level and the women's level, there is that aim to kind of create something more sustainable for sure. Coming into a team that's already been pre-established and stuff like that, how was that coming in? Was that a bit nerve-wracking, or is that something you look forward to, getting to work with new people with new ideas? Like, what is that kind of like coming to a new club in that way?
Yeah, it was again, I'd known about Livingston because I've been following them, their progress the last few years, and obviously when they're doing well, you take even more notice. And I'd obviously coached quite a few of the players in the current squad, so that made it a little bit easier, but it also makes it a little bit harder because you've dealt with them before, and some players are a few years on after you've coached them. Some have taken different career paths since you've seen them. And I was also kind of told that there's some strong kind of characters in the dressing room, so that's not a bad thing. I'd rather have characters than no characters, but I think again it's trying to how to deal with them, how to manage them. The hardest bit was actually at the start, is looking at the squad and having seen videos and seen them in the flesh, but looking ahead to kind of where we wanted to be. I obviously speaking to players who weren't possibly going to stay involved, I had to have those conversations very quickly. But no, I remember speaking to a coach previously, and he said that you can often see like a group from a distance, but until you actually get on the training pitch and see how they are, it's like a completely different thing. So I remember my first few sessions, I thought, you know what, I was just even happier that I was here. I just thought this is exactly where I want to be, and the players I want to work with, have been fantastic. We had a really good meeting with the staff team initially, so I spoke to them just to kind of chat and see how they're getting on. And again, people said to me, do I want to bring my own staff in? And I said, you know what, I want to give the guys and people here a chance. So I'm glad I have, because they've been really good. Jordan as an assistant has been great. Connor's been involved. And even as I say, the backroom staff like Dave, Nigel, Johnny's nutritionalist, and I've got Alina and Kelly, and then a goalkeeping coach, Eric, as well. So we're all pulling in the same direction, which is great. I spoke to the captains before. I really wanted to speak to the captains a lot from the previous season, just to see how they were feeling. And again, I wanted to speak to them just to be clear with them. This is the way we're going to work, and I need you on board here as best as possible. So I spoke to them early on, and we had an initial player meeting. I was pretty nervous before the player meeting. I don't often get nervous speaking to players, but it's that kind of first impressions, and I just wanted to kind of get across to them that I wasn't just here to make up the numbers in the league. I wanted to do well and make sure that all of us leave our kind of legacy on it. So yeah, it was a really good chat, and I didn't go in there with 25 slides and massive motivational slogans and team talks, but I did.
No Ted Lasso, no.
No, and it's just Ted Lasso is so funny. I've seen bits of it, and I'm still watching parts of it, but I know, having been a coach, I'm sure other coaches can relate as well, that some of the stuff he does is actually, there are things you think, oh, I've done that, or and you just, I know various coaches get the kind of Ted Lasso, and even other coaches get the kind of David Brent comparisons, etc. So no, I think coaching is, I think it's sometimes it's complicated, but it's also quite simple at times. I think again, it's a lot about building relationships with people, getting to know people, and that's really important. Where I am as a coach now is a completely different coach to I was 10, 15 years ago. I know, like previously I was maybe more intense, and I don't know, I feel like I've been through a lot more experiences in life and family, post-COVID, etc., that I just think the values of dealing with people and getting to know people and understanding that everybody's going through various different things in their daily lives is so important. Obviously the health and well-being side is so important too. So yeah, I think it's been really, really interesting to get to know people. Again, even some of the players, I think two of the players who I dealt with previously are now married, so it's even getting used to calling them different names. Used to kind of call a player, for example, like Lucy Brown was always Lucy B, and now she's Lucy Watt, so it's like Lucy W. So yeah, it was quite interesting, kind of just even little changes like that. But no, it's been great, and as I say, can't say a bad word about the players. They've been fantastic.
I would imagine that's maybe one of the more difficult things coming in as a manager, is taking over that squad and trying to instantly figure out what you need, what needs to be brought in and stuff like that. What is the kind of like the player recruitment kind of been like for you?
Yeah, again, before I got the role, I was already thinking about how I could make a difference, how I could improve it. And that was really important for me to find out the feedback of what worked the last season, what didn't work. And we're still working a lot of things, but yeah, I've tried to put a lot of kind of planning in place and preparation, planning sessions all the way through to pretty much Christmas, different themes, based on style of play, etc., and just be more prepared. Even our video analysis we do every Tuesday, just breaking down opponents and looking at how we play, etc., and send a few clips to players as well. I often sometimes do that before sessions as well. If I find something which is relevant to them, like why, if we're working on like wingers movement, I'd maybe send them a clip of like 3-4 different ways of moving out wide to receive the ball. So it's just kind of planting the seed. But yeah, no, we're getting there. It's just there's so much to do. And what was your other part of the question you said? Sorry, just recap.
It just in terms of like the kind of like player recruitment and stuff like that.
Yeah, the recruitment. Sorry, it was the recruitment part. It's something which I said to the players early on. I didn't come in here and want to make massive changes. Especially when a team wins a league. So to win a league at any level is not easy. And I thought, I don't want to change much because I've seen it before. You bring in too many players and it can disrupt harmony. The challenge for me is like, I know in this level you need depth, and there's a fine line between having too many players, but also making sure that when you look around to make a substitute, a change during a game, that you're not looking at the bench going, oh, I'm not really trusting that player. Right now, I feel like I can trust every player. Like that's just as simple. This is my biggest issue right now, is going to be making sure when we pick the squad selection, I communicate with the players who are not playing and keeping them involved as best as possible. But the recruitment wise, I knew we needed to add players. I didn't maybe want to add as many as we've added, but I also know sometimes when a player becomes available, if you don't take them, they'll either go elsewhere or you'll regret it. And I do know moving up the leagues, we just played Montrose there in a friendly and they've just been promoted. And, we did well for the first half an hour in the first part after half time. But I know, as you move up the levels, there's just a lot of better players all around. And again, you have to be able to match it. And the last thing I wanted is for Livingston to go up and go straight back down again. That would be kind of the worst scenario. So, it's going to be a tough league with only 8 teams, but I am really hopeful that we can do well this season and not just make up the numbers.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking at the additions that have came in. A lot of quality players have came in to add to what was a strong spine already. And looking at the squad right now, obviously, so you trust a lot of them. Are you quite content with the number you have now then? Are you looking to bring anybody else in? Or do you think that should be us for the season? Unless, as you say, somebody pops up who is capable.
Yeah, it's very hard because, I do believe right now we're done. But if Lucy Bronze or Alessia Russo came and said, I want to play for Livingston, it's hard to say no. But I do want to work with the players and trust the players I've got. I've always said though, and players are aware, that if somebody does come on the market and it's going to improve the team, we have to look at it. It's been a challenge with looking at different goalkeepers and various outfield players as well. It's kind of felt at times you've had a few kind of players on trial, and I don't really always like to do that. But then at the same time, I like to see how a player fits in, how they build relationships, coming into a new group and how the team react to that player coming in. Ideally, I think moving forward, we'll be more kind of strategic with our targets. We've basically kind of got a list of players we've been looking at. And I think, again, fast forward to this kind of time next year, I can imagine we won't be adding as many. But I do believe, the players we have added are definitely quality. I like to add players. We need experience for playing in this league. We need youth players as well, because I think it's important to keep the older ones on their toes. I've looked at players with leadership as well. We've picked up a few kind of captains, ex-captains, obviously good quality as well, good athletes and are robust and they can play games. And the final thing is just being good people. I think that's so important because, again, it's okay right now when the weather's nice and you're training, but come middle of the winter and it's freezing cold and, maybe energy levels aren't as high as summer, you need those players to drag you through it. And I also know playing certain teams in this league, there's some very tough away fixtures. So yeah, it's not easy recruitment, but I think we've definitely strengthened, and I'm excited to see how they get on.
I think one of the things that maybe go hand in hand with that is maybe the formation kind of play for the team. Obviously, since they've been kind of inception under Paul, and the 3-5-2 has been utilised quite a lot. I think seeing a couple of the friendlies, though, I think you're a bit of a fan of a 4-3-3 as well, though. Is that just going to be something that might be going between the two? Is it good to have, two kind of options there with plenty of personnel available in them?
Yeah, so as I said before, like football, I believe, is a simple game. I think a lot of coaches overcomplicate it, and I do watch a lot of football and look at the trends and see what's happening, and it's easy to kind of get lost in that and get overcomplicated with various formations, tactics. And again, there's one thing doing it, if you're at Man City and you got the best players in the world with you, is another thing doing it at a lower level, or a cold, without being a cliche, that cold wet day at a tough pitch. So I've said to the players as well, when as much as I love passing fluid football, there'll be games we'll go to, we play on grass, we play on 3G. You can't always play what you want, and that's been one of the key messages to the players, is that we have to be adaptable and flexible. And it's actually just a bit of a kind of football education for them as well. Kind of we've looked at different styles. I know what they played last season. I watched a lot of clips and footage, and we've tried various formations in pre-season. I want to get consistent with what we're doing. But for example, we've worked on playing out from the back for a few sessions, and we've looked at different ways, whether you play it with a 3, whether you play it with a 4. Even watching, for example, the Brighton men's team right now, some of the stuff they're doing, some of the football has been actually fascinating, with various pivots and 1 pivot, 2 pivots in midfield, and etc. and the movement. So we're looking at trends, but we're also trying to find what fits our players and not overcomplicating it. I think, again, the opposition's important too, depending who you're playing, what you're up against. And I think, this league, it's going to be so tight as well, that some games it might be 0-0 or 1-1, or you might be 1-0 down, for example, and you need to find a way either to get back into it. So that's why, again, when we looked at recruiting players, we tried to get a bit of everything. But also at the same time, you might be winning a game 1-0. So that's where, again, the more experienced players can come onto the pitch and maybe hold up the ball for a bit longer or draw a foul. So yeah, but no, the squad, going kind of back to that question previously, it was like, I know it might look large right now, but the other thing is we've got a player injured, and we've got players in various different jobs. So we've got 2 players with kids, so that they've got a bit of childcare. Every so often we've got players in the police. So it's like, we do need to make sure we've always got that depth. So yeah, it's definitely a larger squad. I'm not really usually have a squad as big, but I also know, looking at other SWPL squads, the squad size, it's not the biggest. So I'd rather that than be too short. But at the same time, I know Livingston's got a brilliant youth setup. The girls' sections have been improving the last few years. The challenge is it's the jump. The last thing I want to do is put a youngster into the kind of deep end and make them fail. So there's some really good young players at the club, but it's just making sure we bring them up to training at the right time and making sure that they have a positive experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the aims for the season, what are you kind of looking at? Is it just to be as kind of competitive, win as many games as possible, just as usual? Yeah,
I want to be consistent. That's been a really big message to the players, a really important message. I don't want one week us to be winning a game 4-0, the next week to lose 2-0. I want to be consistent with our performances, and our hopefully that the outcomes will take care of themselves. Yeah, of course, we want to win the league. I'm not going to, I didn't come into this job to just stay up. I like winning trophies, and, having had teams before who've been successful, it's, you want to be involved with that again. But I know there's 5-6 teams, possibly nearly every team maybe thinks they can win the league, which is fine. I think the league will be really, really interesting. I do think, obviously, staying up is really important. We've talked about targets and goals and where we want to be, and we've actually not put too much pressure on the players. Even though I've told them I want to win the league, we haven't gone, I know all the stats and data regarding it, what you need to win the league, but we've also looked at the bigger picture of actually just making sure that we do leave the jersey and the team in a better position than what we found it. As I say, having been involved with rugby and still following rugby a little bit, I'm a big believer some of the stuff they do in their culture is really important, about respect and just making sure, again, just small details, like when we go to other places, we tidy up, and we just have high standards, the way we want to be seen. I want us to play good football, but I know, trust me, if you said to me this Sunday, you win 1-0 and you play absolutely awful, I'd take it 100%. This is the challenge of working at this level. When you were at the under 18s or 16s or 14s, the National Academy program, you could really just go for your style of play and say, you know what, it's not about winning as much, even though you want to create, winners. But this level, it is very cutthroat, and teams who've won the league previously don't lose many games. And so I think it's going to be a really interesting project to see how we are now and then where we go end of the season. I'm really excited to see how it evolves.
Yeah, perfect. I think that rounds up quite nicely just to talk about kind of the hot thoughts for the season there. So just a massive thank you for taking the time to talk to us ahead of the game. If anybody's listening and, is at a loose end on Sunday, come down, 4 o'clock kickoff, you can get your tickets on the fan base app or pay at the gate if you speak nicely to Nigel, he'll maybe let you in as well. But yeah, thanks very much, Mike, for joining us, and all the best on Sunday too.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. And yeah, if there's any young girls or players in the community who want to come and support, obviously get yourself down. And yeah, we're a club for all. And yeah, I'd really appreciate the support, and the players would too. And if you can't make this game, our fixtures on the website, and yeah, we're here to help. So thank you for your support and making me feel so welcome.
Livingston, no Livingston, it's up to Amityville. Livingston, 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 oh Livingston, no Livingston, we love it when you score. Livingston, oh Livingston, the Amityville Lions roar. Livingston, oh Livingston, we realize our vision. Livingston, oh Livingston, into the